morning, everyone, and welcome to Spotlight, brought to you by the Georgetown NAACP branch number 5520. It's always good to be with you. As you can probably tell, I'm still traveling. I've been traveling this week to California for a conference, so our backgrounds may be a little bit different, but as usual, we have our same co-host joining us, and we're going to be talking about upcoming school board special election and also community meeting regarding the athletic fields in the city of Georgetown near the Beck Recreational Center and other community happenings in the next 30 minutes. Glad that you could join us, and we'll see you in a few minutes.
Heavenly Father, we ask you to put a hand of protection.
Well, we're back. So let me go ahead and bring in my co-host, President Marvin Neal. We'll be joined in a few minutes by Ebony Hughes and Wesley Gibson. But Marvin, we've got a lot going on. In particular, you leave town and a lot happens. So we got school board elections, a special election.
Yes.
It's for an at-large seat. It's very important that the community comes out and votes. But to help the community be an informed voter, what does the Georgetown NAACP branch number 5520 have going on? We got some stuff planned to help folks be informed voters.
Well, as you know, there were three, a couple of forums that was set up by the Republican Party, but we're not catering to a party, Democrat or Republican. The forums that we have set up is for the community because it is an at-large seat, and it is also a nonpartisan election. So that means this is not party-driven. It's driven by the voters itself and having the opportunity to vote for a candidate of their choice. So what the NAACP have done, we have set up three forums in the minority communities because we noticed the other forums was catering towards that was the majority community, which were white still. So on March 14th at 6 to 7, we will be at the Howard Center in Georgetown. At the Howard Center in Georgetown with the forum on the three candidates, which one is Mr. DeVos, Mr. John Tester, and Mistress Anderson Fredon Anderson. Those are the candidates that's running. Two of them are former school. One was a former school board assistant superintendent and human resources director and principal and teacher. The other one is a teacher, Ms. Anderson, and Mr. DeVos is a realtor. So we are looking at people to come out on the 14th at Howard Center from 6 to 7 and just ask questions. They'll have the opportunity to ask questions in this forum because the election has to be about the people. March 21st, we'll be at the Choppy Center from 6 to 7, and March 24th, we'll be at Andrews Recreation Center from 6 to 7. So all these events will be at the Recreation Center and make sure we get some good space with social distance and we're asking the community to come out because there's a lot of play right now when it comes to the schools and how it's being managed, not only managed, but how things are being directed. There's a lot going on right now with charter schools. You have a lot going on right now with the funding for schools from the governor's level. So there's a lot of questions to be asked. There's a lot going on with just school in general and disciplinary actions and things of that nature, salaries and budget. So.
All right, very good. Also, I don't know if this has come up yet, but it's lurking out there nationally in local school board races. CRT is an issue. Critical race theory has been made an issue, whether you agree with it or not. One thing we know, it is not in K-12 at all. But we certainly hope that we are teaching our kids critical thinking skills. But actually, that's a good reason to come on out to these forums and find out what these candidates are thinking, because they will let you know. And we have a right to ask that question.
But Marilyn, what they are confusing people with, they're trying to bring in this aura of critical race theory within our K through 12 schools, and that gives them the opportunity to remove Black history out of the schools, and that's what that's what the target is, to stop teaching Black history in the school districts, in these school systems, and you can't have history without Black history. So if we're not teaching Black history, what history are we teaching? Is the question, and what are we talking about? So we just can't talk about Christopher Columbus and don't talk about Harriet Tubman.
That's right.
You know,
That's right.
it just don't make sense. We cannot talk about all the other folks that came over. The Crokers and the missionaries and all that, and don't talk about these people that really made a difference in America. The John Lewis's, the Dr. Kings, and these folks. All that is our history. That's Black history. We can't talk about it without talking about the enslaved people. That's part of the history of the United States. The United States was built off the back of enslaved people. And what they're saying now, they don't want you to talk about it because white people think that makes their children angry. Well, what should really make them angry if they continue to lie to them and they find out the truth later on down the road? That's the problem.
Well, I think I think they're feeling that their kids will be burdened with guilt. But this is why we have the forums so that we can know where these folks stand on these issues because it's very important. I agree with you. All history needs to be taught. The issue is Black history has really not been taught consistently or at all in our school systems. And now that people are saying, hey, it should be taught, we need to have a holistic approach to our education. We need to create critical thinkers. It's getting people upset because it really comes down to one, a lack of control. And they're seeing the changing of America from a majority white country to a majority Black, brown, red, yellow country. And it frightens a lot of people. It shouldn't, but it does. And they're trying to fight back with that. And that's yeah. But I mean, we need a holistic approach to our history. And
Yeah. We have never came out in mass and say, do not teach white history.
yeah.
The history of America is built off the backs of enslaved people. The saving of America was off the back of enslaved people. The word enslaved bothers people at some point. It bothers us more than anyone. So why should it bother them? What is there to hide by teaching history? It strengthens the Black and brown community when you teach their history and they know where they came from. And it tells the other communities what not to do going forward. That's what history does.
Yeah.
It can repeat itself if we're not careful. Our people need to know they do not need to be enslaved again. The foolish thinking of how people control people. That's enslavement. And we saw it today in modern times right now, right in Conway.
Hey, Wes. Hey, Wes, how you doing? We can hear you.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, no, probably
Okay.
good. That's why I brought you in, so we can make sure we can hear you. So
Okay.
you're blocking yourself with your hand, I believe, but we can definitely hear you now. There you go.
Okay.
Hey,
I'm
Wes.
cooking and talking.
Okay, that's where you are. Okay.
We'll let you get a plug in later on about the cooking too,
Okay.
Wes. All right. So hold on one second, Wes. We're going to wrap this up and then we'll bring you in to talk about what's going on.
Okay.
So let's go ahead. So we just want to remind everybody that the school board special election is happening, and we will be hosting forums across the county. We are a nonpartisan organization. We're not going to take a stance one way or the other, but what we do take a stance on is getting knowledge to the people. That's where we stand, getting knowledge to the people so you are informed and that you can make your decisions regarding the upcoming school board special election. And of course, as always, we encourage people to vote. Get out. Every election is important. Every election is important, folks. So get out there and vote. All right, we're going to bring Wesley Gibson in. Go ahead, Marvin.
There's a couple more things too. The date of the election is the 29th of March. That's the actual election. for the special election.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you for
Okay,
saying
and
that.
also the early voting have already started. So you could go and vote now. But I encourage people to get knowledge on the situation before you go and vote. Don't vote blindsidedly because someone told you something or someone encouraged you to vote for a certain person. Go get knowledge because it will be interesting in what you find out at these forums. Be careful because there's a lot of narratives out there of why you should vote for certain people. Make sure you understand you're voting for your children, you're voting for these teachers, you're voting for bus drivers, you're voting for cafeteria workers, you're voting for janitors. These are the people that you're voting for. And I'm saying that because of salary conditions of our schools right now. Teachers are leaving because of a lack of salaries and budget being put in the right place. Everything at the top getting raises and everything at the bottom getting used. So you need to make sure that you go out and hear these people and listen to what they're talking about and ask them where's the budget going. Because a lot of people run on taking care of teachers, taking care of bus drivers, taking care of cafeteria workers, taking care of custodians, but that don't happen after they get in those seats. So we have to be careful who we put in these seats. Be very careful and listen and get educated, like Marilyn said. But take your time. Don't rush to early voting and stuff. But if you already know who you're going to vote for, hey, have it your way. But there'll be opportunities after these forums. I advise you to go to the forums first, especially the Black and Brown community.
All right. Yep, that's true. Thank you very much, Martha. Let's go ahead and bring in Ebony Hughes and Wesley Gibson. Hey, Ebony. Hey, Wesley. How y'all doing?
What's
morning,
going on?
everybody.
Oh, it's good to see everybody. I'm not quite back in Georgetown, but I'm on my way.
He's in Hollywood.
Yeah, I'm not quite there either. No, not that Hollywood, South Carolina. I'm closer to right now. Not Hollywood, California. It's good to see everybody. It's good to be back. I had a good week, but when you leave town, a whole bunch of stuff happens. And that's why we brought Wesley Gibson on today to talk about what's going on in Georgetown, because Wesley, you leave and boom, something's going on with the athletic field. Can you give us an update on what's going on? I don't want opinions because I know there's going to be a community forum and we don't want to influence people, but we want to know what's going on. What led to this point of what's going on in Georgetown with the athletic field? Can you explain that for us?
Sure. What's going on is that we've had that $2.8 million athletic multi-purpose field built, and it took a lot to get it built. It took a lot of sweat, hard work, arm twisting, and now that we got it built, it's being misused. I went out there several times with several other men, grown men, Billy White, commissioner, Henry Milton, city councilman, to talk to the young people about following the rules and regulations of the basketball court, and it was to no avail. The kids were being very disrespectful. A couple of times we felt threatened. And
Wow.
it's not the older kids. It's not the kids that have graduated and moved on and the older generation 18 and above. It's the 12 through 17. We've had mopeds, four-wheelers, bicycles driven on the court, and we can't have that. Kids hanging on the rim. I told a young man, hey, you can't hang on the rim. So what does he do? He jumps up and he grabs the rim and hangs on it right in front of my face. Total disrespect.
And this has led to what you posted on, and I'm going to pull it up, a sign, no trespassing, closed until further notice. So they actually closed down the entire park because of the actions of this group that you just described. Is that an accurate
No, only
picture?
the basketball. Only the basketball.
Okay. All right, cool.
And Monday, the commissioners and the rec department came to an agreement that we would close the park until Monday so we can get some rules and regulations in place and maybe get a community group to oversee the children playing at the park. You know, the old saying, the more things change, the more they remain the same, is true. You know, things have changed, generations have changed, but the respect that we deserve and demand still remains the same. That ain't gonna change. And it's time that we get a group to watchdog the court, to monitor the children. Maybe they can give us some better ways of managing the court. We had some young children that couldn't even get on the court. We have to find time to put them on the court. You know, it's not just for whoever's the biggest and the baddest, they play all the time. The court is for everybody, young and old, and we have to come up with some kind of program where the young kids get played just like the older kids get played.
Marvin and Ebony, any thoughts regarding this? I haven't been in town, and that's why I wanted Wesley to give us the facts, the details, what led to this sign being put up to basically ban from the basketball court, not the entire park, but the basketball court area. We do have coming up, according to the poster, there's going to be a meeting on Monday, March 7th at 5 o'clock at Howard Center. Wesley, this is a public meeting?
Yes.
Yes, a public meeting.
All right. And any thoughts, Ebony, Marvin?
Good, Ebony.
Well, I do have to say one thing about it. It's very unfortunate that it has happened, but I want to, for a moment, yes, while the children, we're talking about the children, what we're actually looking at is a symptom of a deeper issue in the community. We have to invest into the community, and part of that was the ball court. I myself have been petitioning on my program, 7 Dimensions, to help with after school programs, but we kind of run into a little bit of conflict or scheduling issues, or really just the rec department saying no. I myself, I would like to be at that meeting to once again to submit a request to them for them to consider maybe even our program, or partnering with a bunch of different programs that can take turns in helping with that, because the statistics show that the highest crime rate is between 3 and 7 o'clock amongst the youth. So if you already know that the highest rates of crime among the youth is from 3 to 7, not any other time, I'm giving you the peak hours, and that's a fact, not an opinion, then we need to have programs or coalitions to provide an outlet for these children, because one of the biggest things is that they don't have anything else to do. Okay, let me change that. They don't have anything structured to do. And you have to provide that structure because of the system. A lot of our parents are working, or some other issues is going on. And keep in mind, we're still in a pandemic. So as adults, we are charged with making this wrong or right, and we can do that. Hopefully, I don't want it to shine a negativity on the children. I want it to show where the adults need to step in and make sure that we provide refuge and structure for our children.
One thing, Ebony, I'm on the Park and Rec Commission, and we have had conversations about it. Me and Billy White, Wes, brother Councilman Henry Milton, and the earlier that we could get control of this situation, the better it is for everyone, the taxpayers, the children, the parents. The problem we have here, and I understand what you're talking about, structured programs and investment in our children, and all of that is true. But the first thing we have to do before you can do that, you have to get them in some type of disciplinary order that you can invest into them and the community. Our challenge is getting the children in order and getting parent and adult supervision over these children. You know, some of these children are just roaming after schools. They're just growing up out in the streets. You can't raise children like that. Raising means a teaching point. You know, there's no teaching point in some of these children other than the schools. You know, and we can't continue. We send children to school to learn. That means their conduct and their attitude should be in order when they walk through the door. Not getting to the school and teachers and everyone else. And that's just black and white children. They ain't just black kids now we're talking about. When I say conduct and disciplinary action, I'm talking black and white. They should not be in these classrooms out of order. And the teacher trying to teach is a disadvantage to the other kids that's in the classroom that's been prepared for these moments. So, you know, but coming back to the park situation there, you know, there was so much money and time invested into this thing, and West consistently, and I could actually say, had not for Wesley Gibson, this park here, that basketball court, that track field would have been at 8 Oaks, out of the reach of the community. Now we brought it back into the community, and this is what came out of it, you know, from the start. So we have to put an end to this. We have to go back to the village concept, and everyone should be able to talk to these children. Our thing on Monday night is to get back to the parent here and bring their children too. They need to bring their children out so they can understand where we're going with this. We shouldn't have to repair stuff because children just tear it up. You know, it's one thing for wear and tear. That's not wear and tear. Disrespecting folks, Wesley and those that goes out there. Even the city county councilman went out there. They disrespected her. She just asked him to pick up the trash. You know, come on. Those are just the basic stuff. You know, COVID-19 have our children, you know, in all kinds of conditions. And I don't blame COVID-19 on their conduct. But, you know, all those things we have to continue to teach and mentally counsel our children and stuff to get them back into a normality, whatever that is now, to make sure that they understand that we know you're hype and all that stuff. And you know we're going to get out there. It's like letting a wild dog out of a cage after you had them in so long. They're going to run crazy for a second. Let's just make sure that's all that was. So we have to close it down to make sure that they understand you can't do that. And it's not going to
Marvin, I didn't mean to cut across you. When I say meant, I felt threatened. I had a young man tell me that I know him, and I do know him. I see him every day almost. Tell me in front of his peers, I don't know who the F he's rocking with. That's gang language.
That's gang language.
Telling me that I don't know what gang he's in.
Thank you.
And like I told him, I don't care what gang you're in. You're not going to tear up this court. That individual went outside the fence, got a full bottle of water, threw it over the fence in the midst of all the children that were standing on the court talking to me and Councilman Henry Milton. Now, that is total disrespect. They put locks so you couldn't adjust the baskets down to 8 feet. The kids cut the locks because they want to play like Michael Jordan, dunking an 8-foot basket. That doesn't make your game better. It only tears up the basket. We have one basket that is already bent. It cannot be replaced because it's got, cement bags maybe are 40 pounds a piece. It got 10 bags of cement under each basket. All that would have to be dug up. But hopefully we can get together Monday and we can come up with some resolution with the parents and the kids that the park can be good for everyone, everybody, young, old, indifferent. We have kids coming from other parts of the county to play at Beck. But hopefully we'll get it together, and hopefully I'll see y'all Monday. Marvin, I gotta go, but peace be with you.
Excuse me, Mr. Wesley. First of all, I want to thank you for all that you have done to get this park going. That's the first thing. But can you please tell everyone, we know that it's Monday, but tell us where and the time that people need to show up.
5 o'clock at Howard Gym.
All right. Thank you.
All right.
And
Y'all take
Wesley,
care.
where are you cooking today? Where are you cooking
Addie
today?
Vons. Big West Barbecue, Addie Vons, 1 o'clock.
All right, very good. Thank
All
you,
right.
Wesley. Thank
See
you for coming
y'all.
on.
You can at least show us the grill.
All right.
But you know,
All right.
that's shameful, Maryland. You know, and if we look at this, we just had a 15-year-old shot in Charleston, killed. In marching now, Charleston, South Carolina. You know, it's all gang violence. 15-year-old shot and killed.
Let's hope. Don't we have some issues in Georgetown with a couple of murders in the city that have not been unresolved? Go ahead, Ebony. I just wanted to throw that out.
No, go ahead.
I kind of had heard
go
something.
ahead.
I don't know. So maybe I shouldn't even mention that because I don't know if it's elected to gangs or connected to gangs or not. What I do know is if families do not step up for our children, the children will find families out in the street
Elsewhere.
Elsewhere.
Mhm.
So and part of being a parent is enacting structure and discipline. And 12 to 16 is such a dangerous age. That is puberty, a lot of hormones, emotions, chemicals going on in your body. And quite frankly, that's when you need direction most. And Wesley kind of described that. Go ahead, Ebony.
Yeah, and I'm agreeing with you. Hopefully, like I said before, the meeting will bring some type of, at least the beginning to what we need to do to move forward so that we can talk about this. But, I have a 16-year-old son, and as a single parent, it was hard, and thank God for the village. But at the same time, it was because I allowed the village to be a village. I allowed my parents to discipline my children. I tell other people who I trust, especially, when you see my child, and and I have a daughter as well, she's grown, but I'm talking about because I have a Black 16-year-old son. If you see him and he's not doing what he needs to do, you need to call him down. And he is not to talk back. And guess what? You are to tell me, and I'm going to deal with that at home. But on the same token, as a parent, I make sure that my children are involved in positive, structured programs, summer programs at school. They have clubs, they have organizations, they've got sports. And between the sports, they keep them occupied really I almost thought a little bit too much. But so long as I knew that he was involved in these programs, Future Business Leaders of America, Future Farmers of America, I can go on and on. The Beta Club, all kids not going to be in the Beta Club, but then whatever they can be in, I let them be in it, because I know that idle time is what? The devil's playground. Mm-hmm. And what they have done over in Georgetown, over at the new park, is they have turned that into a devil's playground. So we need to, as adults, we need to get a hold of ourselves and create this village and create some structured things for these kids to do, especially between those dangerous hours.
And Ebony, there's a lot of people that push themselves out there as community leaders and community activists and all that stuff. That's what they need to be activating themselves at. That's where the leadership needs to be at. Not just in front of the camera or on the mic and stuff. We need to get out there and get involved with this community other than in a moment. Because the challenge is you have to know where your children are, and parents should know where their children are and who they are with. That's the key. That's the key. Like you said, 7 Dimension have several programs that they're trying to operate and get support for. The Village Group have several programs. The PD Group has several programs. There's just programs out there we need to push our children into. The programs have to run the children down to help train them and teach them. And that's the challenge. Why should the program operators chase the children? They didn't have to chase me. My father, I was in the 4-H club, Cub Scout, Boy Scout, and all my leaders was right from the community. Singing choir on the group, son being quiet. I was so occupied when I joined the military. It was like a shock to me. But I was occupied consistently between the schools program and the community, you didn't have time for this foolishness there. We got time to play basketball. But I'll tell you what, where we were, my parent knew where I was. The bottom line.
That's right.
You
right.
knew where you're supposed to go, and you knew where you're supposed to come back to.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, and that's so true.
Caught in certain places. Believe me,
That's
my
right.
father would have beat us to death.
Well, you know, Mr. Neal, and it's funny that you said that. I am a product of PD community, and you have the PD project out there. You got, you know, Tyrone Wilson with the TWLUM, which didn't exist when I was a kid. But what I will say to that is this: it had church choirs. Okay, I'm gonna bring that back in. There were church programs, but the parents made the kids, you know. And now I look now, they're giving out $10 and $15 and $20 gift cards just for the kids to show up, and the kids won't show up. I talked to one parent and I said, hey, they're having this program over here in PD, learning about STDs, and you need to learn, let your kid come. They're putting on a program about this, that, and the third. There's like, oh, well, the child don't feel like showing up. Now, me, I come with a different mindset on that, because a kid is a kid, and we're entrusted, as we are trustees of these kids. I don't care what the kid feel like, unless they're sick and they can't go, you're going to get up at 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock in the morning, and you are going to go. Point blank.
You gave me chills when you said the children said they didn't want to go. I can't think of a time that ever came out of my mouth when I was growing up. You know, my parents, that wasn't an option. They told you what you were going to do, and you did that. And I know, Marilyn, you were the same way and stuff, because I know your household too, and that structure. You know, disciplinary and education, you know. God have mercy. You know, children now, you know, they tell the parent what they're not going to do. So you have to ask yourself, well, who is the parent and where is the parent? You know.
Yep. I was listening to you and Ebony. I didn't have to even say anything because it reminded me so much of my household growing up. I was always occupied. I mean, to this day, I remember my mother saying that. Her children were occupied anywhere we lived. My mother, first of all, she was a PE teacher. That was her first teaching. She ended up being English, librarian, and a lot of other stuff. But she was first a PE teacher. So she really believed in her kids getting exercise. And we don't think about that anymore, Marvin. But exercise is not only good for your mental and physical health, but it expends that energy.
Yeah.
And that's why those hours between 3 and 7 after school are so dangerous, because kids have to find an outlet for that energy, especially that 12 to 16-year-old age, 12 to 18. So when you're in puberty and you got all these emotions and you got these hormones just driving you and you don't know. And that's where parents come in. It's so important that you got to give your kids structure and give them something to occupy them. Because if you don't, the streets certainly will. And it sounds like that's what I'm hearing, that these kids are being pulled between the streets and their home. And sorry, but home's going to have to step up. If that's what's happening, and these kids are even threatening people, lines have been crossed. You know, lines have been crossed. And
there's some lines been crossed, Marilyn.
Yeah.
And even just the disrespect to the adults in the community, leading and a county councilman. You know, this is an 82-year-old woman that, you know, just the feedback, man, I can talk back to her. And one thing we have to realize, Marilyn, when you get St. Paul Park down here, the fight for these parks, they just don't know the fight behind it. You know, when Johnny Morant was the chairman of the county council, we was going through the Vision 2 plan and all the things that we had to go through just to get the community parks, period, the outdoor parks, because they were going to a health complex form of recreation. But the question was, how are the children going to get there? So we had to bring many parks into the community, and that's what the fight was. And I was a part of that fight because I was one leading that fight. But also, you know, once you get there, the community have to get involved. Here in St. Paul, the Sons of Allen, men of the church, we poured the concrete in St. Paul, in Park and St. Paul, to get it open for the children, had the children involved with it. pouring the concrete. So they are invested into what's out there. And they'll tell people here, man, don't do that. Don't tear it up here. The children have to be responsible also. And they have to tell that story. Get off that no snitching stuff, because you're not going to have anywhere to play. You have to tell people what's going on when they come out there, why people are doing things. You know what I'm saying? When they ask the question, who done that? You can't run us in no snitch. That's why the locker's on the gate right now, because they didn't hold themselves accountable for what was going on and responsible. So everybody has a role to play.
That's right. As we know, it takes a village to raise a child. Marvin, I'm going to have to get on out here. I know Ebony.
We can step off. We can close out. I have to get out of here to a funeral.
Yeah. I do want to remind everybody that in Black Pearl Sings is a live theater happening in Charleston. And if you go to the, let me get back here. I'm going to change that information for a moment, folks. If you go to charlestonstage.com and buy your tickets and you enter the code Pearl Chamber, you can get $10 tickets to Black Pearl Sings. So if you want to occupy your kids not only at the not only in sports and athletics, but you want live theater, get your kids exposed. And I grew up, and I know Marvin, you did this too. I grew up, my parents taking me to museums and the theater and, you know, the movies, theater, different stuff. And, you know, this is another way to get your kids occupied. So if you go to charlestonstage.com or call 843-577-7183, and this is a special just for the Gullah Geechee Chamber of Commerce. You can get $10 tickets to Black Pearl Sings. And the wonderful thing about this live play is that it's based on Gullah culture, Gullah traditions, Gullah music. And we actually got a chance to interview the actresses in the play. So that's going to be happening March 16th on our gathering page. You'll be able to see some of the performance. But this is happening March 11th through the 27th at Dock Street Theater in Charleston. And if you go enter the code Pearl Chamber at charlestonstage.com, you'll be able to get $10 tickets. So that's a huge discount on the regular cost. Take your kids, take your family. It's a great opportunity for live theater. Another way to get our kids exposed to beyond just Georgetown and these small towns, which we love our small towns, but we know our kids need exposure too. You know how notice how I came back on that one. I said we love our small towns.
Yeah. Hey, Marilyn, talk about what happened at the Gullah Fest in Conway the other day, and where you are right now, and why you are there, and what's the real goal behind why you're doing what you're doing.
So I had an opportunity to present at two conferences, the one in Conway, the International Gullah Geechee and African Diaspora Conference, and then I just came back from San Diego, California at the Aquaculture Conference, and I didn't even know about this, y'all. So I'm growing too as a person, getting more exposed to stuff, because I'm presenting about the Gullah Geechee Seafood Trail. And the Gullah Geechee Seafood Trail is an opportunity to preserve the maritime heritage and celebrate the culture of the Gullah Geechee when it comes to seafood, water, the ocean. So did you know all those oyster roasts and the Friday fish fry? Those are cultural things that can be celebrated. And the reason we're creating the Gullah Geechee Seafood Trail is a market research study has determined that the Gullah Geechee cultural tourism has an opportunity of creating $34 billion. That's $34 billion with the B in tourism money for our culture. And the Gullah Geechee Seafood Trail is part of the infrastructure so that we can make those billions. And that's across the entire coast of South Carolina, up to Wilmington, North Carolina, all of the Georgia coast, and down to Jacksonville, Florida. And right here in Georgetown, South Carolina, all of this has started. And just imagine it. We about to change the world. But I'm glad you brought that up, that I do want to make a point before I have to leave, that we can change the world, but it's also an opportunity for us to create a whole new economic system for our children. But your children got to be on the right path. I mean, that's it. It's, you got to have that structure and discipline. And
it's true, Marilyn. I'm glad you said it about this event. I would like to go. I'm going to try my best with my busy schedule to go and to take who I can with me, because when I was growing up, one of my outlets was music. I hated math, right? A lot of kids hate math, but the outlet for me was music, which really at the end of the day, I tricked myself into liking math because there's nothing but notes and half notes and eighth notes and things of that nature. But we need to expose our kids to that because you never know if that will get them into acting or into instruments. I played 4 different instruments. Get your kids involved, take them to this show. I'm really excited about it.
Yeah, I am too. And
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
You play 4 different instruments?
I did. I played the piano was my first one. Then I moved to alto sax. Then I moved to tenor sax, which it looks like a saxophone, but it's actually it's a different instrument and notes. And then I played baritone saxophone.
Wow.
So
man,
3
that's
different
huge.
saxophones.
Wow, man, we got to talk about that. You know,
she's not going to give a recital, okay?
That is huge.
We ain't
No, man. But you know what?
That's a good thing. That shows a lot, though. Mm-hmm.
As you were talking, you know, it makes you think back about the Gullah Geechee culture. You know, we own, that's our brand. We own it. We just need to get out of it who we are. And economics is part of that. You know what I'm saying? That's our brand. Everyone is selling our brand except us.
Yeah, that's another conversation too. But we're fighting that too.
Everybody
making cultural appropriation too. But yeah. You know, Gullah Geechee music, our spirituals are the root of bluegrass.
Oh,
they're the root of blues, the root of jazz, and people don't know that. We need to, So there's a lot of opportunity out there, and I've been moving around, just playing my part in opening the opportunity to folks. I've made a lot of contacts. I got a lot of phone calls to return next week that people really want to invest in our culture, which will allow, and I believe in going taking other people's money and investing it back into our community, and which will lead to more athletic fields, which will lead to more businesses being created. So there's a lot going on, folks, and I hope folks just stay tuned on what's going on.
We're some colorful people. We are colorful. Even with this background music, I want to jam a little bit, you know?
You picked up on it, huh? Yeah. So, but you know, just we'll see everybody Monday at 5 at the community meeting at Howard. And then please go to charlestonstage.com and buy your tickets to Black Pearl Sing. And remember, Chamber Pearl, that's the code to get your discounted tickets. And March 29th is the school board election, and we do have forums coming up. So y'all just check out our Facebook page, and we'll have all the dates for the forums and locations for you. So be informed and go vote.
And also, Marilyn, the heirs property preservation in the Georgetown County, they're having a session there at Howard on the 21st. And that's the Georgetown County sponsoring that. And that's a good deal for them to do that. And we'll make sure that information is put out on Facebook also. And I just got invited to be on the regional advisory board for the Center for Heirs Property Preservation. Wow, that's huge. So I agreed to be on that advisory board. And that's all I know right now. Our first meeting, I believe, is March 14th. But they're moving, they're breaking it into regional advisory boards. Yeah. And that's a good thing. That's a great thing, you know, because I spoke with them a couple of times and stuff, but I just don't have the time to fit it in, you know. Well, we're all busy, but we're out here. All right, thank you, Marvin. Thank you, Ebony, for joining us today. I got to get on out of here, but everybody, thank you for joining us this morning as usual with Spotlight, and we'll see you next Saturday at 11 a.m. And my phone is ringing just in time. See you guys later. All right. Bye, everybody. Bye, everybody. See you next Saturday at 11 o'clock. We waiting on this recital. Bye. 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 Oh, goodness.